ব্যান্ডউইথ আমি 500 টাকায় বা 600 টাকায় আমি পেয়ে যাচ্ছি, একটা আইএসপি পেয়ে যাচ্ছে। লোকাল ট্রান্সমিশনের জন্য ঢাকা সিটিতে 500 থেকে 1000 টাকা আমাকে পে করতে হচ্ছে ট্রান্সমিশন কষ্টের জন্য। আর ঢাকার বাইরে আমি গাজীপুর, রূপগঞ্জ, নারায়ণগঞ্জ বা আশেপাশে যে কোনো জায়গায় 2 থেকে 3000 টাকা। এখন ঢাকা সিটির একটা লোকের বাইক পাওয়া আর রূপগঞ্জ, গাজীপুর বা একটা লিমিটেডের বাইক পাওয়া ইজ নট সেম। তো আমাদেরকে চিন্তা করতে হবে ঢাকা সিটিতে কোনোভাবে আমরা ম্যানেজ করতে পারছি, কিন্তু ঢাকা সিটির বাইরে নেটওয়ার্ক এগুলো কিভাবে সহজভাবে নিয়ে যেতে পারবে, তাদেরকে সেই ফ্যাসিলিটিসটা গভর্নমেন্ট থেকে দিতে হবে। এবং আমি মনে করি সেখানে দুটো এন্টিটিএল আরো যদি কিছু এন্টিটিএল অ্যাড করা যায় যারা ট্রান্সমিশন নেটওয়ার্কটা দেয়, তাহলে আমার মনে হয় যত বেশি নেটওয়ার্ক হবে, যত বেশি অ্যাওয়ারনেস প্রোগ্রামগুলো হবে, যে অ্যাওয়ারনেস প্রোগ্রামগুলো খুব কম হয়। আমার মনে হয় যে হয়তো সিটিতে বা বিভিন্ন বড় বড় সিটিগুলোতে শুধু অ্যাওয়ারনেস প্রোগ্রামগুলো অনেক সময় তাদের প্রয়োজনে, এডুকেশনের প্রয়োজনে আমরা যারা অ্যাফোর্ড করতে পারে তারা আমরা দিতে পারছি, কিন্তু যারা অ্যাফোর্ড করতে পারে না, যেসব স্কুলগুলোতে গভর্নমেন্ট বলছে যে আমরা অনেক স্কুলে ইন্টারনেট দিয়ে দিচ্ছি, কিন্তু যখন আমরা প্র্যাকটিক্যালি যাই আসলে আমরা ওই স্কুলগুলোতে এফেক্টিভ ইন্টারনেট পাই না। এবং শুধু ইন্টারনেট না, আপনি কানেক্টিভিটি দিলেন, ওইখানে তো একজন টিচারও দিতে হবে, যেই টিচার স্টুডেন্টদেরকে শিখাবে বা ইন্টারনেট কি কি কাজে লাগে তার ভালো দিকগুলি শিখাবে, খারাপ দিক থাকবে। যখন একটা নাইফ প্রথম আবিষ্কার করা হচ্ছে, আবিষ্কার এই ছুরি দিয়ে তো ভালো কাজ করার জন্য এই নাইফটাকে আবিষ্কার করা হয়, কিন্তু এই ছুরি দিয়ে একজন লোক হত্যা করে। এখন খারাপ খুব সামান্য, কিন্তু ভালো দিকটাই অনেক বেশি। তখন ইন্টারনেট অ্যাওয়ারনেস যদি আমরা বাড়াতে পারি তাহলে আমার মনে হয় যে খারাপ দিক খুব সামান্য থাকবে এবং আমাদের ভালো দিকগুলো এগিয়ে আসবে, এবং আমাদের যে সফলতা বা আমরা ইন্টারনেটে আমরা কি কাজ করতে পারি, জিডিপি গ্রোথের কথা একজন বলেন, আমাদের 75% বলা হয়েছে এখনো কানেক্টেড না। আমি তো বলি আরো বেশি, এটা হলো কাগজে কলমে 75% ইউজার কানেক্টেড না। আমি বলি মাত্র 3 to 4% ইউজার প্রপার ইন্টারনেট ইউজ, যারা ব্রডব্যান্ড ইন্টারনেট ইউজ করতে পারছে, আর বাকি 96% ইউজার আপনার প্রপার ইন্টারনেট ইউজ পাচ্ছে না, হয়তো এক্সপেন্সিভ আপনার দেখা যাচ্ছে 20% বা 24% ইউজার মোবাইল ইউজার। এখন ওই ইউজার হয়তো আমার ইমার্জেন্সি কাজগুলো আমি করতে পারছি, কিন্তু আমি প্রপার ইউজার, সে একজন একটা অ্যাপস তৈরি করবে বা অফিসের কাজ করবে, সেই কাজগুলোকে আমরা করতে পারছি মোবাইল দিয়ে পারছি না। তার মানে কি আমাদের মাত্র 3 to 4% ফিক্স লাইন, আমরা এই ফিক্স লাইন কিভাবে বাড়াবো সেই জায়গায় কাজ করতে হবে। এন্টিটিএলগুলোতে আরো সুযোগ দিতে হবে যাতে তারা প্রপার ওয়েতে কাজগুলো করতে পারে। আমাদের ঢাকা সিটিতে অনেক প্রবলেম আছে নেটওয়ার্ক তৈরি করার জন্য। পৃথিবীর অন্যান্য দেশে দেখা যায় অনেক বড় বড় বিল্ডিং বা ইস্তারা 25 তলা একটা বিল্ডিং থাকে, সেই বিল্ডিং এ একটা লিংক ঢুকে দেয়, ওই বিল্ডিং এর সব ইউজার ইন্টারনেট পেয়ে যাচ্ছে। কিন্তু আমাদের তা না, ছোট ছোট 3 টাকা 4 টাকা 5 টাকা ব্লক, সেই ব্লকে আন্ডারগ্রাউন্ড করে আপনার নেটওয়ার্ক তৈরি করা রিয়েলি একটা টাফ জব। এখন যদি আমি অন্য দেশের এক্সাম্পল আমি যে ওই দেশ পাচ্ছে আমাদের পাচ্ছে না কেন, আমাদের পাচ্ছে না অনেকগুলো আমাদের ব্যারিয়ার আছে। এবং আমরা যখন একটা বিল্ডিং তৈরি করি, বিল্ডিং তৈরি করা বিল্ডিং কোড মানি না, আর বিল্ডিং কোড মানলেও দেখা যায় যে অনেক সময় রাজুকের ইদানিং
ভিডিও অফ করেন না।
আপনি হাতছাড়া সমস্যা
হ্যাঁ, এটা সিম্পল।
অফ ছিল, এতক্ষণ অফ ছিল, আমি টেস্ট করতেছি কোন ক্যামেরা চালাবো, বুঝছেন না? টেস্ট না করে ইয়ে করবো কেন? এতক্ষণ তো অফই ছিল।
টেস্ট করার সময় আছে।
হইছে সাজিদ? দিব?
দেন না, এখন দেন না, দেখেন এখন ভিডিও অন করেন, অডিও অন করেন আপনি, ঠিক আছে? অডিয়েন্স ঢোকার পরে ডাউন করেন।
হ্যাঁ?
আলবা কিন্তু হালকা পাতলা ভাবে লাগছে এটা, বুঝছেন?
সাজিদ হালকাই থাকে।
টেপটা ভালো না।
ঠিক আছে? আল্লাহ গুনা সাজিদ, তুমি সরো, সামনে দিয়ে সরো, ক্যামেরার সামনে দিয়ে।
I suppose not yet. Let's go to Dhaka first. We call Dhaka again. Moving on to Bangkok. Bangkok? Anyone there? We cannot hear Bangkok at the moment. Okay, I'm sure we're going to hear this one because this is Tokyo. Tokyo, you introduce yourself.
Hello everybody, can you hear me? So my name is Takeshi. So this is Tokyo Note about 20 people here. So let me introduce two experts here. One expert is Mr. Koichiro Komiyama, and the other expert is Ms. Mariko Kobayashi. Let me introduce a bit more. Mr. No. Okay, Sparky is the deputy director of JP South Coordination Center, and also Sparky is a board of director of FIRST, FIRST. Can you see him? He's raising his hands. And also, let me introduce other expert here. Ms. Mariko Kobayashi. Mariko is a university student working for Keio University, but she is very famous as a young expert of captive portal techniques. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tokyo Node. Let's go now to Manila. Manila, can you hear us? No response from Manila. Moving on to Sydney.
আমরা মিউট করে রাখছি।
Virtual, we've got our in Ballarat, our illegal settlement. We did have some people, we had come up joining remotely because we have Amelia and Irish is here as well.
I'm from Singapore, but it's actually
Okay. Is there George? Do you have a
Hi all, I'm Peter. I think your other connection's not probably back on. My name is George Strong. I am the chair of Internet Australia. As our CEO, Laurie has pointed out, we are headquarters is in Western University. I am in a regional town, Ballarat, Victoria, about 800 kilometres away, and My colleague, Cheryl Langdon is on the other side of New South Wales, in the mountains. So we are fairly well, really good discussion about the issues of trust and security. We spend a little bit of time talking about the Australian perspective and some of the government issues in regard to data intervention and data retention. And we had conversations about the younger generations and what really very good, well-rounded conversation.
Thank you very much, George and Australia. Moving on to Islamabad. Do we have Islamabad? Okay, nothing yet. Port Villa in Vanuatu.
Hi, hello, are you able to hear me?
Yes, you're loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. I am Jackson and I'm the chair of the Pacific Island chapter of Indian Society. And we have a note here in Port Vila, Vanuatu. Unfortunately, we find it late in the first session to talk about security issues, but we have quite a few people here with us. So it's quite late in the evening. However, we look forward to hearing, learning, and hearing out others from this impact pre-meeting for the global event. So hello from Port Vila, and look forward to hear our discussions this afternoon.
Thank you, Maxon. Now on to Kolkata. Kolkata, please introduce yourself. Hi, we can hear you. Yes.
Okay, we had a fantastic discussion in the morning at Kolkata on the trust. We had
Great. Thank you, Kolkata. Is Colombo ready? Okay, I suppose still Dhaka?
Microphone. Hello.
Yes, Dhaka is here. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, hi. This is Faisal Hassan, and I have our chapter president, Sabir.
chair of
Yes, we're here. So we had a really lively session, 1.5 hours long, and we discussed many issues in Bangladesh regarding the connectivity and connectivity. So how what should we do now? Should we discuss about the discussion, or shall we just continue on your discussions?
There will be an opportunity for each node to share the summary of the local discussions later in the session. So at the moment, we just want to keep this part of the session as an introductory bit for nodes to really just introduce themselves very quickly. Okay, thank you very much, Dhaka. Is Bangkok ready?
ভাই ওটা থাকুক আমি মিউট করে দিচ্ছি
And yet from Bangkok. Hi Nabi.
Hi Noel, hi everyone. This is the Bangkok node. Thank you for having us. We had a very lively discussion among the chapter members and leaders on the issue of trust, which we will give the summary in the later stage of the session. We have here with us Gongthip Chombra and Asit Suryawanto as our local speakers and the panelists for the discussions moving forward. Back to you, Noel.
Thank you, Bangkok. Manila. Last call for Manila. Okay. And the very last call for Colombo.
Noile kintu from Manila or Nodi.
Good morning. So this is Ian from Colombo, and okay. Thank you on behalf of ISAP Sri Lanka. So there are about 50 people here from ISAP Sri Lanka, and including the community members. We had a very good session in the morning on us, and panelists, which now we are ready to join the general board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ihan. And Manila? Anything from Manila? Okay, let's hope that Manila will be able to join us in the next part of the session. Thank you, everyone, for the introductions. We are now moving on to before I move on to there's going to be a local discussion wherein Nodes will give us a quick summary of what was discussed in the local discussions. But first, I was hoping to maybe briefly go over the themes for InterCommunity 2016. So this year we have two themes, both of which are very, very relevant to Asia Pacific. One, we have internet access. More specifically, we have connecting the unconnected. So in Asia Pacific, as we know, is very diverse, arguably the most diverse region in the world, as we like to say. So I am here in Tokyo at the moment, where we have I would say flawless internet connectivity, almost flawless, and we know that there's very high internet penetration. But then we are also very much aware in many developing and most developing countries in Asia Pacific, as a matter of fact, still have the majority of the population that have yet to go online, and then you also have some economies like Myanmar where people are going online very, very quickly. So we also have other issues that are springing up in relation to this, and one of them is trust on the internet. In recent years, specifically, there have been measures that have somehow weakened confidence in the internet and in online use, and that means that we also need to somehow incorporate issues of trust and confidence. And this is the second theme that we're going into today, is that really, what are the steps, what are the ways by which we can restore, and what are the ways by which we can further build trust and confidence online, for us to really maximize the value of the internet for the growth of societies, for the growth of our economies, as more and more people connect to the internet. Just a few housekeeping rules. Please don't forget to mute your mic when it is not your turn to speak. And also, we would like to remind participants in the notes that they can direct their questions to our Twitter account, the ISOC APAC Twitter account. That's the capital ISOC and small letters to be APAC, in one word, using the hashtag ICOM2016. We would like to now move on to each node, giving a quick, and the keyword here is quick, summary of the local discussions that they've had earlier this day. We would like to start this with Singapore. Singapore, please do give us like a roundup of what was discussed today, highlighting the key points that had emerged during the session. Singapore? Singapore is quiet. Let's go to Port Moresby.
Unmute us. Unmute us. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Can you hear us now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, we were muted. This is Gimli Mukherjee. I'm Vice President of the Internet Society Singapore. And in summary, we had 4 participants on the panel. We had Brian Tan, who is the president of the chapter. We had Sophia. She's part of. She's the treasurer. We have Tension House, who's the program chair, and me, including Mukherjee, as the vice president. Our summary was, in terms of security and trust, was that we felt that one of the most important things to enhance security and trust on the internet was education, because users need to know how their data is being used to be put online. In the context of users, one of the important things from security was that they need to be on guard as possible, as Singapore has become a target for cyber attacks. One of the ways in which internet society has been helping is that we've been finding out what are some of the risks and putting it on air in various op-eds. And obviously we found out that we need to take different approaches to different people in terms of the dual senior citizens who are the outliers. We've also participated in a couple of community measures through the Internet Society officially, as well as by members of the Internet Society who served on Singapore's Personal Data Protection Commission, and we came out with an act so that users' trust on their personal data is not abused. This is Singapore's Personal Data Protection Act, PDPA. In addition to that, we have the defamation and sedition laws, which can be used to stop hate speech. Another important aspect is that users need to trust information integrity, because if the user can trust what they read, which is out there, then we can prevent large amount of misinformation. An aspect of this is information hygiene, that means going back to the original sources to look if it is credible. Does the source exist? Is it reliable? As a community, we can, and being part of the Internet Society, we can call out what is dangerous and what is wrong. And that builds trust. We have an aspect that came out from the discussion for Citizen Watch. Just like we have consumer-generated content, we can have user-generated curation, which was suggested as one of the solutions. Another aspect was promote certain groups of bodies we could have that could be taken on as first-rate curation of information to stop this aspect called trending algorithms, which give us exactly what we want to hear, rather than a reliable source. Singapore obviously has been, along with the Internet Society, all aware of standards. And obviously we need standards to protect online citizens. These standards must be very open to allow for different points of view to be posted. But it's always difficult to control the level of accuracy, as well as difficult to control the perspective of someone. And these are some of the challenges we face. As Singapore joins various trading protocols like the ASEAN Free Trade Zone that is coming into existence, as well as the signatory to the Trans-Pacific PPP partnership, Trans-Pacific Partnership, we can help other countries which do not have the same level of legislation and cooperation we do, to ensure that there's consistent legislation and cooperation to deal with cybercrime and cyberbullying, so that we can take swift and decisive actions. And this can help users build trust if, for example, undesirable or bad actions have been taken, and these will be stopped. That is, in a nutshell, what we discussed during the roundtable.
Thank you very much, Singapore. Let's move on to Port Moresby. I just got a note that Manila is now ready. Manila, if you can please hang on, and we will do the introduction along with the summary when it's your turn. moving on to Port Moresby. Can you give a very quick summary? We can see you. Summary of the local discussion.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. In Port Moresby, our topic here was access. And I'm joined here by Mr. Kerim and Munifrid Amini. My name is Dhaka. So, our issues related to access are not unique. We have been a developing nation and also a small island developing nation. We have issues that may be faced also in other parts of the Pacific Islands, a lot of which due to our geography, and some of the issues include infrastructure, and also one of the major barriers to access also is cost and connectivity. So we looked at strategies that can be possible strategies in cost for making it accessible to most of the public, and public is working on first IXP that will be launched pretty soon. So that's one thing that we're looking forward to, and also other issues related to access is also civil society and making sure that people are aware of the importance of information, so that we can be also able to contribute to whatever is happening to government, not only civil society but other stakeholders such as business, and contribute to government and policy that promotes access to information as a important tool to development. So that's mainly what we discussed as in our session. Thank you.
Much, Port Moresby. Let's now go to Tokyo. Tokyo will summarize very quickly.
Okay, we have discussed 3 issues. First issue is about concerns around online trust and security. For this issue, we identified 4 issues. First 2 issues is about user point of view. The other 2 issues is from the viewpoint of policy. The first issue we identified is that we have a concern around information leakage, and we cannot make sure the system security of service provider. From the viewpoint of policy, we have 2 issues. First, the influence from government is too strong. Second, legislation and operation needs to be tackled together. We cannot work only with legislation or only with operation. We have to address both of them together. Regarding second issue, factors affecting user trust, we identified 3 factors. First factor is we need more information sharing. Information sharing is a key to build trust and security. So for that purpose, we need to advance information sharing. Second issue is trust anchor point. We need a trust anchor point that receives sufficient level of auditing. The third issue is the culture. We have a culture that hates mistakes, but we have to somehow allow mistakes. Third issue we have discussed is about steps for improving user trust. For these steps, we have identified 4 measures. First measure is about information sharing. We need to establish ISAC. This is an organization for information sharing. Anyway, we need to establish ISAC for each industry and also across these industries to advance information sharing. Second measure we identified is we need to build visualization and transparency of the internet. For instance, we can deploy online survey in order to build understanding of public opinion. Third issue is culture. We need to build a culture where we can take risks, where we can make mistakes. Fourth measure we identified is about policy. We need to control the influence from the government. We need to build a multi-stakeholder-based trust system. In Japan, consumer participation is not enough, we think, so we need to advance or expedite participation of the consumers in order to bolster the auditing function. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tokyo. Let's go to Dhaka for their summary.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes?
Thank you. I'm Shman Sabir. I didn't introduce myself. I'm the chair of Beauty Law, InterCommunity group, and also working as an admin member of the InterCommunity forum. So we have a very fruitful session in the morning, and we have around 50 participants, and we have discussed the connecting unconnected issue. We discussed restoring and building trust in the internet. And if you go the first agenda, connecting unconnected, if you rephrase the connecting unconnected in a meaningful way. And to do that, the challenges we have noticed that we need to, we have a lot of users, but we don't have a lot of local contents and effective and meaningful content or apps that people really need. And also the content in local language, so that most of the people, those who are not fluent in English, can also join and can use the internet effectively and meaningfully. So we feel need for the meaningful, useful local content for users in local language. There is a primary challenge we have noticed. And second, we noticed that in Bangladesh, the women participation in internet, in terms of users, in terms of engineers, everywhere is very, very low. So we need to find a way so that how can increase the women participation in the internet. I think we should look forward to the other countries, how they have achieved that, or how they're trying to mitigate that. We want to learn from your side. We couldn't find a solution to that actually. Second issue, third issue we have is that we have some regulatory issues here in Bangladesh that the government licensing regime, the way it's structured, somehow it is hindering the growth of internet and in some cases increasing the cost of internet. So how the other country is actually regulating or making the policy that can help us to improve our regulations and policies. Then if I look at the building trust and other thing, the first thing we notice that we need to have awareness among users that how we can use internet safely and also responsibility. So it's our responsibility to be responsible in the internet, and we should also know how we can use security. So then actually we can really build a trust among the users. And another thing that also to get the legal support. In our country we have a cyber law introduced, but somehow to the community it is a bit harsh and may hinder people from even expressing their opinion in the internet. So regarding cyber law, actually how we can make it easy to cyber law, that is a challenge for us. We need to solve it. And that is the update from our meeting. Thank you very much.
We might have to speed up a bit. We would like to remind the node moderators to please do keep the summary under 2 minutes, because we still have an interregional roundtable coming up. Moving on to Bangkok. Bangkok, can you please give us a very quick summary of the discussions that you had? Bangkok, maybe you are muted.
Yes, Noel, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So here we had a discussion about trust. The participants during their conversation actually were talking about that Thailand is now fastly moving from an industrial economy to a digital economy. And the users are using the internet from the formal kind of thing, which was like email and all those, to more informal and doing the daily life stuff. For example, people here are using internet for ordering food, for booking the accommodation, for buying stuff, etc., etc. So the issue of trust is getting more important. And for that, the participants concluded that the educational institutions, especially the universities, have a very critical role to play to educate the young users who are coming on the internet and they're using internet very rapidly to be informed on what are the security concerns and what are the few possible solutions. Talking about the solutions, the participants concluded that there is no one-stop solution for building trust
However, it's very important to have an environment which is trustworthy. So, this can help you to build up the trust ecosystem over the internet, and for that, there has to be a collaboration and coordination among different organizations. The chapter also emphasized the role of Internet Society and its chapter in making sure that these discussions on trust move on locally, and that we are able to build the trust environment, which is very important moving forward. Back to you, Noel.
Thank you very much, Naveed, for that very quick summary. Port Villa, are you ready?
I know.
Yes.
Okay, for our local discussions, it was mainly on access, which is quite something that's been pushed by the government for 98% coverage by 2018, 90% of the population, and internet uptake is quite high. And the other factor that we also talked about was on literacy and numeracy. A lot of our population are not able to read and write. There's issues with trust. In Vanuatu, we are a very small country. We trust each other very much, and often that can be we are mostly vulnerable to trust people, especially when we go online. So that's an issue that we've also discussed. Affordability for internet access is also still very expensive as we speak. Although we've had a cable since 2012, we are yet to see drop in internet prices. Broadband is still a luxury for most people. However, our discussions were mostly on awareness, which is something that we need to do as a community, both in the NGOs, private sector, government, regulators, and also operators. So, yes, that's something we need to embark on, and with support of organizations such as Internet Society, we are able to do a lot more awareness for our community so that they can be able to enjoy the experience online, are more safe, and are considerate of the privacy issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Port Vila. Let's now turn to Colombo, Sri Lanka, for a very quick summary.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon. Okay, I'm getting some feedback. Okay, let's go now. So we had a very good session in the morning. We had some experts. We had Dr. Venura Paniwalana, who is a psychologist, who talked about the psychological conflict, and gave a very interesting story about the control and how the internet can be convinced that people are manipulated by the internet. So we are having more details. Then we have Dr. Paniwalana talk about access to the internet, and in fact, Sri Lanka is one of the countries where access to the internet is quite easy and quite pervasive. But of course, cost and speed are there, and of course, maybe we don't get exactly what we are doing there. And also, of course, people who have money can buy over people. Then we have perhaps a clear version from the School of Computing, who talked about how the work and popularization in Sri Lanka, and that everyone can content on the internet. And people used to start everything on the internet, but now, of course, they do not. And then we have Dr. Kavan, who is actually an astronomer, but who talks about e-commerce and how many years ago, maybe in the 1990s, he started using e-commerce on eBay and how the trust people, how we work with trust. And then, of course, I also talked about trust and how, what do you mean by trust and how you establish trust on internet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Colombo, let's now turn to Manila. Manila, can you maybe introduce the speakers for about 30 seconds before you go to your summary, and then we will hear the summary.
We just completed our finance session on the topic of access. So this is infrastructure. You know, surprisingly, people always find infrastructure as a problem. People have access nowhere. As proof of this, for example, if you have a deep infrastructure, they will try very carefully access to that connection. We will be hosting a sale next year, and I think we will host the it seems to be the consensus of the panel was that probably is a very full regulatory framework and very good execution by the government of those regulations that are in place. For example, requires congressional franchise, legislative franchise of the central province. Another issue would be, for example, Philippine Temple are highly vertically integrated. They're monolithic. They do everything from lighting stations to fiber home. So there is no unbundling at all. And this responsibility to manage the problem of access and activities. Of course, we also have secondary problems that, for example, every has access to equal access to the internet generalized. On the second question, even if you ask the second question, what do you recommend? The recommendation seems to follow the same path. They seem to recommend either better regulations as well as better regulatory framework, better competition, and or recommend that, for example, something done with the family that unsafe internet. Okay. Finally, regarding use of the internet, apparently the whole system of access, because there's the corruption of the use of the internet should be that in the next usage. That's something that is very hard. Now, another point I will use that as soon as the quality of the internet connectivity improves, then the users point that that's really go or that is really out. Access is provided to the internet next. So nothing will be done according to the panel regarding fueling or providing for more users. So that wraps up our summary. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you very much, Win. Moving on to Sydney. Sydney, are you ready?
I'm happy to do that on behalf of Sydney. My name is George Fong. I'm the chair of Internet Australia, and we are running through 3 virtual nodes at the moment. I'm in Ballarat, which is in a regional town. Cheryl Langanore is in Glenora, which is somewhere in the Blue Mountains, and we have mission control in Western University. Very impressive facilities there. Our discussions were wide-ranging. I think it's fair to say that there is a common theme with the other chapters and areas in the sense that we are concerned about what government does and doesn't know about the integrity and privacy and trust and the importance of that to an open and a free internet. We discussed the paradoxes between the need to keep the internet free and open, but to maintain the rage in terms of making sure that things on the internet are encrypted as far as they can, so they can be trusted, not just in respect of criminals and unauthorized access, but also in respect of governments respecting the privacy of that data. We did discuss an Australian perspective from the point of view that we are now in the throes of implementing a data retention scheme, a scheme for metadata by service providers, carriage service providers. We are greatly concerned that not only will the cost of these exercises not be effective, but they are badly implemented as far as the technical regime is concerned. And while we do not believe that the government is evil, we do believe that they are naive and they do not understand the technical complexities of what is required. So we are concerned about the integrity of the net, especially in regional areas such as Southern Africa, where mobile banking and other things are essential to the economy, is something that's paramount. We have talked about the Internet Architecture Board's statements on Internet confidentiality, and we believe that there is much work to be done, not just at the technical level, but at the community level, advising and educating the community that uses the Internet about what they can do to protect the Internet and what they can do to help us, help them make sure that the Internet is a place where they can access easily, but also trust. We talked about generational gaps between the current leadership and people like myself who now have sons and daughters who are adults and who grew up on the Internet. We believe the conversation will change when these people get into positions of our own, where they have platforms to discuss things. We believe that the conversation about privacy will be different between them and us. And we need to accept that there are differences and that we need to embrace those processes. We were struck between the need for us as an Internet community to work on the technical issues of making sure that we can maintain the integrity of the Internet through things like encryption, but also to be able to keep it as open and free and provide some cultural input as to why it's important, especially in terms of educating and apprising governments of what it is that they need to do to legislate and sometimes not to do. We did also talk about intellectual property and the protection of it and the dilemmas that you're faced with, whether or not you actually protect that data or you look at trademarking and use Creative Commons to expose your intellectual property in a way that gets you recognized as the person that is the source of that information. Is that a better protection than actually trying to hide it behind an intellectual property wall? And I think that at the end there was a broad consensus that no matter what we do as a community on the Internet society, it is very important to make sure that these debates remain open and free and that we have a broad exchange of ideas. We reinforce the fact that, as Nika has pointed out, this is more than anything else a very diverse group, culturally, technically, and socially, of chapters, and I think we have a great deal to offer the rest of the chapters in the book in terms of our different ways of tackling problems, but also in our belief in the rough consensus. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sydney. Now, Islamabad, you are second to the last. Islamabad, can you hear us?
Can you hear?
Yes, please. A very quick summary from you. Aha, Islamabad screen has frozen. Maybe we should go to Kolkata first. Kolkata, are you ready? Yes, Kolkata, you have unmuted.
So we discussed in the morning primarily about the security issues which causes mistrust by using the internet. And then as part of the discussion, there were privacy issues which were also raised, which causes mistrust on internet. Then there was a point raised about older generation not having as much trust as the younger generation have it. But then the discussion moved on to the dimension that trust is always a two-way thing, and whether it is internet or any other communication medium, there has to be a proper trust angle between the person who is using the communication medium and the person who is delivering the communication medium. So, as part of the problem statement, what we identified that there is nothing free which is available anywhere in the world, and there is too much expectation from internet, and that's what is causing the problem. Now, the solution which the group discussed here, that there has to be adequate amount of intelligence which needs to be put before using anything on internet. Then the issues raised about the CDNs trying to dominate the space through their terms and conditions and other forms of usage license, which forces people to use the internet the way they want. So it has to be in a simplified form. And then another solution which was discussed was about right to be deleted in case some people have gone and put some information on internet which needs to be. So overall, from India perspective, it was also expected that there can be a law which might help put the security concerns into perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kolkata. Now, Islamabad, you are the last one. Can we hear from you on your summary? Islamabad? Can you wave if you can hear us? I'm afraid we are a bit out of time for this part of the session, so may I suggest that perhaps we can integrate the summary later in the interregional discussion. Okay, so I will try and bring us up to time again by summarizing it very quickly. We've heard from all of our from 10 of our nodes on the key points from their discussions. We have 4 nodes sharing their key points on access, and we see still basic concerns coming up. We have affordability concerns, we have connectivity concerns, concerns with basic user awareness or basic awareness of potential users. But then there are also other concerns emerging, especially for those who already have connectivity, which is really diffuse. So we have issues related to that, which is really once you have connectivity, how do you bring people to be able to use the internet, and how do you encourage them to be able to use it in the ways that they need to use it or they prefer. And then on trust, we have even more facets coming out. We see somehow in all of the nodes that there is an orientation towards user needs. How do we empower end users? How do we give them the capability to be able for them to not only be aware of the issues that they're going to encounter, but be able to protect themselves and to actively take steps for them to protect themselves from the risks and the threats online. And we also have, I suppose there was a consensus among the nodes that there really is no single solution to the challenges that we face, and thus the need for multi-stakeholder collaboration, for more opportunities for cooperation between stakeholders, and also for obviously the internet society's role. We heard from several nodes that the internet society really has an active role to play in being able to promote and to facilitate the discussion, to be able to foster and build more trust. But what has, I suppose, what has the underlying theme for all of the discussions that we've heard today in all of the summaries is really education. So there's an increasing need to educate stakeholders, educate ourselves, educate end users. We have heard of governments not being able to implement laws properly because they did not have enough awareness and enough understanding of certain technical aspects, and the implications of the policy that they've enacted. So I suppose one of the key takeaways that we can have from the node discussions that we had earlier today is really, aside from the points that were already brought up, is really to be able to there is no feedback. To encourage more opportunities for education, more opportunities for dialogue, more opportunities for interaction between stakeholders and towards end users and those who have yet to go online. Moving on now to the roundtable discussion. So we're going to divide this into two rounds. One on the first round, I will be on both rounds actually. I will be asking each node a question or two if there's time. And I would like to again request for the designated speakers for each node to please do keep your interventions and your comments to under 2 minutes per node, so that we will have time for all the nodes to participate. So let's start with Singapore. Singapore is known as, I suppose, one of the main data hubs in the region. What do you think trust means for the average internet user in Singapore? Please, in under 2 minutes, give us some insights.
Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sure. Okay. So, you're right. Singapore is one of both the infrastructure as well as one of the data hubs in the region. And that is precisely where the role of both infrastructure and content sharing and the reliability of the same and giving users trust takes on not just a Singapore flavor, but a cross-regional flavor in terms of the source of whether it's cyber attacks or information integrity that Singapore has a role to play. Like you rightly mentioned, education, multi-stakeholder education is important, whether it is at a user level, at a community level, at a provider level, also in terms of ensuring that each of these stakeholders are aware of their roles to play in the case, for example, of a cyber attack. So what does one do when things are right? And what does one do when things are wrong? Obviously, one size doesn't fit all when it comes to this approach. One has to take into account different groups in terms of demographics. We have the youth in Singapore, which has a large proportion of social media and smart usage, and senior citizens who may not be as aware of the internet. We have the role of legislation in terms of how this gives users trust. And obviously, we talked about solutions where, apart from regulation, education, the key concept that we came out was this whole issue of digital governance through trusted curators. And that is what we would like to have. Singapore has always been known as a promoter of standards. We've always been amongst the first to espouse global as well as regional standards. We have been the first to get some local standards onto ISO or the other global bodies that protect online citizens. As a developed nation, we understand that these standards need to be open to allow different points of view to be posted. At the same time, we have to ensure that the level of accuracy can be difficult to control. And I'll sign off for now because we've covered most of the points and we're within 2 minutes. Thank you.
You're on mute.
I was muted. Apologies for that. Okay, moving to Port Villa. Port Villa. A question on access for you. Vanuatu recently launched LTE, and there was also a rural satellite broadband service that was introduced recently. what does this mean for internet connectivity in Vanuatu? Do we see this as promising times, and or are we still maybe a long way away from having or achieving meaningful internet use and access?
Thank you, Noel. That's correct. LTE was just launched a few months back here in Vanuatu. There is 3G also available, and all these developments are as a result of government's commitment to expand access to rural areas. So we have set our universal access policy to 98% coverage by 2018, January 1st. And the broadband specifications are quite high. It's set at 21 megs download and 12 meg uplink. And these specifications are based on the current infrastructures that operators have. So with the services rolling out and satellite connectivity to areas that are not covered by any telecom services at all, we are very optimistic about coverage in the next just over a year from today to cover 90%, which means more and more people will have access to fast broadband internet. And with LTE slowly rolling out, we are optimistic that we will achieve our 90% coverage or more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vanuatu. Moving on to Colombo, we go back to trust. Sri Lanka has been ranked first in the e-government development index in South Asia. Does this mean that citizens in Sri Lanka have more trust in e-government services, or is there still a reluctance to use these services? Colombo, you are muted.
Yeah, the more and more people in Sri Lanka, I think, start using government services online, because government has started doing services online recently in the last 3, 4, 5 years right now. But whether they trust internet, I think the trust earlier people used to trust more of the internet, I think, but right now that the loss of trust has been shown for several reasons. The future, I think, more people will join. The numbers will increase. I think we have to do more on the trust, more on the into the content and how to sort of actually maintain the content on the government sites as other sites on the internet. So that's the main issue here.
So this is Bihan.
Yes, Bihan.
But we have the Sri Lanka program and a lot of progress, so citizens can do a lot of things online. So I think there's a lot of process, but I'm not, as Harsha also mentioned, okay, because we are looked at that. Okay, right. But overall, I think trust on the internet is still not all that high. The main reason is people have had too many scams, too many problems have come up, and people still are not in that position that they can just, okay, internet works. So if there is a lot of way to go.
Thank you very much, Gihan, and thank you, Colombo. Let's go now to Manila. Manila. There's some voice. Okay, that's Manila. Yes. So you spoke about the Philippines having connectivity speed problems, and so I suppose it's not a secret that the Philippines is considered to have one of the lowest connectivity in Asia. You mentioned a number of factors earlier, but can you please elaborate on that? it's obviously not too many users, obviously not infrastructure, but you mentioned, I suppose, some kind of weakness in the policy aspect.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone. I am Frank Dhaka. With regards to that, the small players here in the Philippines, the ISPs, are gone. I guess the government should take note of that, and they should ease on the requirements for them to get back in the game. Not like the requirements they give for the big telcos here in the Philippines, because we know that we have two major telcos here in the Philippines that provide these connections. Now, before, you can have any connection wherever you want, but now you are left with two. Number two is the government efforts. If you base it on the hearings conducted by our Senate, was not enough. There are not good enough funds, if not none at all, compared to other neighboring countries. Number three is that there is not much advocacy or policy how subscribers must understand their service, how a large complaints or full service get funded or provided ex post facto surveys if any.
Thank you very much, Manila. We now move on to Bangkok. Can someone, okay, thank you very much. Moving on, Bangkok. Let's go back to trust. Could you provide a quick summary of Thailand's digital economy plans? What role does trust play in ensuring that the opportunities presented by the digital economy can be capitalized on and realized in Thailand?
Sure, thanks. I'm here, Atif. So, according to the plan that released by the Ministry of ICT just recently, we have 6 strategies for this digital, for the plan for the digital economy in society. And if you look at the number 6 strategy, it talks specifically about the trust. So it say like strategy number 6, to build the trust of the digital technology usage. Right, and in this number 6 strategy, it's talking details a little bit into like 3 things that they want to achieve. Right, the first one is to talking about like setting up standards for the transactions, right, and also like the general usage for the society economy. So it's basically setting up the efficient and modern standards. Right? The second one is on the updating law and regulations on digital economy, right? And that is like go along well with the changing nature of the technology and the context of the society. And the last one is about the creating trust for the online transactions. And specifically, there's 3 areas in this. Like the first one is about cybersecurity, information security, right? And the second one is on the data protection. The last one is the mechanism for the consumer protection. So these are like 3 areas, like standards, the law, and the protection mechanism. From this strategy, right, and it comes to like they have like a timeline, right, that the Thai government wants to achieve in say 20 years. So that's kind of a long master plan for this digital economy and society plan. What we could what they like to achieve in the first 1.5 years, which is already starting, I think already for like a half year, so we still like have 1 year to go. For the first phase is like they like to finalize all those amendments and the proposed bills on different things that they see is kind of fundamental for the development of this digital economy. So, for example, Thailand doesn't actually have yet the law on data protection. So that's one area that we need to address. And for the current draft, there's actually a lot of criticism, right, let's say it's actually a lot of loopholes and exemptions. That's probably in the end, this will actually protect. And the data protection committee looks like it's not that great or independent, so that's kind of worrisome. And looking at the cybersecurity field, that in its current form, it's not really go along well with models that we see in different parts of the world that more talking about the partnership, right? How to actually the information sharing, and actually the private sector, civil society, and government, right, work as stakeholders in pipeline, like a peers, kind of equal relationship, right? In its current form, for our cybersecurity field, we quite worry that actually it's more like a top-down, that we could be setting up additional agency and issue some regulations that professor must do unless there are going to be some legal consequences. So I think that's a thing that we can working on.
Thank you very much, Artin. And now for the last node for this round, let's go to Islamabad. Islamabad. I'm just looking at the screen. Okay, so mobile penetration has reached new heights in Pakistan. Do you think that mobile broadband is it ultimately the only option to connecting the unconnected in Pakistan? Which I think at the moment is around still about 75% of the population. Islamabad? You are unmuted, but we cannot hear you just yet.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Ashwar Masood. I am talking from Islamabad on behalf of all members sitting here. My answer to your question is that we have got at the moment about 34 million internet users. They are concentrated on different areas, but of course this facility is mostly available in a few larger cities. But once we are talking about mobile internet, about 15 million, about 50% are slightly less than 50% are mobile internet users. They are all connected through the mobile service providers and using their smartphones. And this percentage is increasing with the passage of time because we had this 3G and 4G technologies just licensed about a couple of years back, and since then this rise is about 22% per year. So this is fairly high, and this number is growing very fast. Of course, the fixed landline broadband connectivity is not as good. It is again concentrated into few areas, and of course the quality is as well is not as good. The DSL connectivity is low. There are 4 service providers which are there on the fixed landline, fixed land broadband connections, and those are actually putting the entire backbone of the country in use into that one. And of course, the mobile users are concerned, they are all connected through the mobile service providers, plus there are exclusive services also present up there. But the connectivity issue is, of course, there is a huge gap between the large cities and, of course, the rural areas. That is where the issue actually comes into play, that there is a kind of, we call it like a digital divide. The larger city users have got a reasonably good quality of service, which is quite affordable as well. The cost is not that big an issue. Of course, the connectivity and the consistency of the quality is, of course, an issue, of course, there. But on the other side, in the rural areas, these services are very, very poor. In fact, they are not practically usable in the sense that we can simply say that they can put a good quality service either of e-commerce, e-governance, or e-education into place, and that is the reason that all these services are lacking, because the infrastructure and the connectivity issues are there, and they are the major hurdles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Islamabad. We have, I suppose, I would like to ask a question. We have a question that came in from social media to the Manila node. So for Manila, what are the barriers? Okay. Yes. What are the barriers to using the internet for people in the Philippines who already have affordable access?
I think it's the quality of experience buyer. This is making the experience.
Thank you very much for that, Manila. Let's move on to the next round of questions for the remaining, the 5 remaining nodes, starting with Port Moresby. Port Moresby. So there, the government of Papua New Guinea has plans to roll out a national broadband network. What promise does this bring to connectivity in Papua New Guinea, and how much of this promise has been realized?
Now from Papua New Guinea, Australia, national broadband network is one of the 2015 vision for the government. But we do still face our challenges just like the rest of the region. We still have a very large population of about 18 million people, and we only have about roughly about 250,000 mobile subscribers. So you imagine internet has not actually reached the remote part of the country and our rural sectors. So it still remains to be a very big challenge for all the topics that the government is looking at. How much of this has been realized? We're currently looking at different options. One of the things that we actually push for the internet exchange point, which has been done by ISO in close collaboration with the National Information and Telecommunications Authority. The internet exchange point is actually being currently set up, and that will actually help reduce internet costs and also promote local content development, also local theory. And also we'd like to look at more local ISPs. Currently we have monopolies, which are done by corporate businesses that run ISP services. A large probably find things on the market. But we'd like to look at other service providers that are coming out in the rural areas as well, so we bring internet services to them. So it's a lot of work still to be depending on us. We still have all these issues such as costs. We also have challenges with power that we have to also address. And then there's also the also engaging the people and getting them a platform for our voice so that they can start talking more about internet and space innovation.
Thank you very much, BNG. We now move on to Tokyo. So I will ask the people in this room. 2 years ago, Japan enacted a cybersecurity basic act. How effective has this been in building users' trust online?
All right, thank you. This is Fadi speaking. So the Cybersecurity Basic Act that prescribes the government and other stakeholders' responsibility to establish the cybersecurity strategy. It also designates the cybersecurity strategic headquarters as the command and control body of the of national cybersecurity and gives the very strong authorities. And as you know, this has nothing to do with the trust on the internet. I mean, given the nature of the Basic Act, its effect can only be seen after a few years. So, to be honest with you, we are still trying to figure out how effective or ineffective this registration is. However, I should highlight instant and positive impact of this registration. Basic Act define the term of cybersecurity, which used to have very diverse definition, and it also, for the first time, as far as I can know, for the first time, it documented the several principles in cyberspace, such as assurance of free flow of information, rule of law, autonomy of internet, collaboration among multi-stakeholders, and this is a giant step to spread the principle to wider community. So the other thing is I also like to explain the Personal Information Protection Act, which has been in effect since 2013. This law aims to draw a basic requirement for business owners who need to handle the large amount of personal information. And what happened after this registration has enacted is, I believe, and people observe, several business providers refrain themselves to try anything new by using the personal information or take advantage of corrected personal information. The good example is, I believe some of you may watch the movie film called The Social Network. It's all about how Mark Zuckerberg created a new company and such fascinating service, and how he and his company changed the world. However, if Zuckerberg was born in Japan and our Personal Information Protection Act is active at the time, he should be arrested by, well, first of all, violating the university database to correct the female students' photos. So, in Japan, we are really concerned about over-regulated registration. We want something new to make this world a better place. And cybersecurity expert like myself is really working hard to determine the best balance in privacy, security, and the current new invention. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tokyo. Let's move on to Dhaka with a question on access. So the World Development Report this year, issued by the World Bank on digital dividends, found that around 90% of Bangladeshis do not have internet access still. How do you see this situation improving in the next 3 to 5 years?
Thank you. Actually, 90% is still debate, because if you talk about broadband internet, I think we can see around 3-4% people use broadband internet. But mobile internet, our statistics say that it's around 50 to 60% people actually using internet via 3G or other mobile WiMAX and other means. So the internet access increased If it is a proliferation of mobile phone, actually it reaches every corner of the country. So we can say from Bangladesh, any part of the country, you can access at least mobile internet. But for 3G, for the broadband, is now actually it's all in major cities. But the growth we can see, the infrastructure being built, the bandwidth cost has gone down significantly, and we can see a lot of access increasing in the broadband in the cities. And the forerunner is the mobile internet, that basically bringing people connected, and then we were adapting broadband internet. So I think in the next 3-4 years, we can see significant rise of internet user in terms of broadband and in terms of mobile internet. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Let's turn to Sydney this time with a question on trust. So there's a recent survey by the Center for International Governance Innovation that says that it found that user trust on the internet is actually declining. Would you say that is this the case in Australia?
I think I actually go from power. That's all right. I think the answer is difficult to define. Part of the issue that we have in Australia is the fact that there has been a very prolific uptake of things like internet banking and certainly social media and communications. We are struck between two things. One, on the one hand, trying to make sure that people are educated about the dangers of using an open internet without restrictions and without proper precautions. And on the other side, trying to take a paternalistic view of how we protect our citizens without them necessarily intervening. In other words, allowing our citizens to become passive. We do have a cyber security centre. We do have, at the Prime Minister's level, a cyber security senior advisor, in an ex-military chap by the name of Alistair McGibbon, who was quite a brilliant chap. Further down the line, we do have, as I think Ms. Vandenberg pointed out, generational issues with regard to who trusts what. We talked in our session about the question of convenience. If everybody drove at 30 kilometers an hour on our roads, nobody would be killed, or less people would be killed, but that's intolerable in terms of how we live. So there is a convenience factor that says we're willing to take some of the dangers in order to have a more convenient life. So the question for government and the question for organizations like ourselves is, how do you balance the two together? And how do you make sure that citizens of all generations take the appropriate precautions? Just as they wear seatbelts in cars and other things, how do they take the appropriate precautions on the net to ensure that if they are transacting, then they do the right things? I think part of the erosion of trust has been the rather flagrant negligence of larger companies in terms of protecting data. You know, we've had some prolific examples across the world of large breaches of personal data in inexcusable circumstances. So the question for us really is, how do we make sure that we enforce that process? And part of the process in Australia, for instance, is whether or not we force companies to declare data breaches. And there's been strong discussion about that on both sides. I think that there is a view that compulsory declaration of breaches is not necessarily a bad thing. But of course, if you're a large commercial organization, there are threats to your integrity as well. So I think we are at a point of dilemma, if you like, in trying to work out whether we trust the internet or not and how we make it stronger. I think the general population doesn't necessarily trust the internet, but it is getting a sense of convenience. And our struggle is not so much the trust bit, is having to balance the lack of trust with the convenience of transactions, if that makes any sense. And we're certainly at the forefront of some of those arguments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leslie. Moving on to the last question for the last note. Kolkata. So India is the second largest internet market in the world. What is how do users in India perceive the issues like privacy and trust and security and data protection.
International cost money. As you rightly said that we are the second largest foreign market. That is due to the use of. If we categorize the youth or the different user in India, we can categorize in 3 areas. One, the huge those who are using the internet is students, which is from the age below 25 years. One area is from 25 to 50, which is the working class, who are using the internet for their official works now. And the rest is above 50. User of India now today is very much serious about the privacy and security. Because till the time there was online transaction was not there, online e-commerce was not there. This issue was not being so much discussed. During these days, most of the there are websites who are into the e-commerce where transactions are coming into, and people are very much serious about what is being done and how to be done. That is why the people of India are today very much serious about for their security and trust part. Regarding the privacy, the youth is also very much serious about for what information to be given to the social sites. From that location, they should not be left out. So, in both ways, today's user is so much of serious about regarding their privacy and security and trust.
Thank you very much, Kolkata. We've come to the end of the inter-regional discussion. Unfortunately, we do not have any time to take any more comments or questions from participants at this point. So I suppose what's left to do is really, I will try and give a very, very quick summary, and then I will ask the nodes for some closing remarks. Very, very short closing remarks. Okay, so we've I suppose that this is the second part of the discussion that we're having, and now we're seeing more positive developments come out. You have economies where citizens are using or are more eager to use e-services. We see more rollouts of internet infrastructure happening in countries like Vanuatu. We see even in Australia more people taking up e-banking, e-government services as well, and there's also even in other developing countries, we see in Bangladesh, for instance, where bandwidth costs and mobile broadband costs are going down, and there's big forcing therefore even more more increase in usage in the coming years. But we also we've also, I suppose, touched upon the fact that these developments are not even. So we see, for instance, in Islamabad, where there's still a big rural-urban digital divide, and we also see that these developments have brought about other issues like what is being encountered in Australia, where there's now that challenge of how to balance trust with that increasing convenience, really, of being able to use the internet for the things that we do every day. At the same time, there's also some positive things that came out from the interregional discussion that we're having is ways forward. So we see there's an acknowledgement that there's a need to update certain legislation. There's a need to formulate standards, as Singapore has pointed out. There's also a need to encourage more infrastructure building, more IXPs, and I suppose as members and as leaders in our community, as members of the Internet Society, we will, of course, having identified these issues and having identified the challenges that we still encounter, we will, of course, do our best to contribute to solving these challenges. Now let's move on to the closing remarks from each of the nodes. If I may ask each node to make a closing remark in less than 40 seconds. That's a challenge to you. Okay, starting with the node that started the latest today. Let's call on Port Villa. Silence also counts in the 40 seconds. So please.
Thanks, Noel. From our node, access is growing fast. The demand for internet is faster, and awareness will be fastest. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very succinct, Port Villa. Port Worthy, please take inspiration from Port Villa with your closing remarks.
If you can see here, thanks very much, and yeah, probably anything to like the awareness with the community and also to not only that, but also with other stakeholders to promote better policy and better governance in order to promote information as a basic infrastructure for everyone to benefit from. Thank you.
Thank you, Port Moresby. Moving on to Sydney. Sydney, can you please give us some last words from you?
I think that I'm struck between the need to have a sophisticated technical response to making sure that our job is to make the internet as trustworthy and open as possible. And by that, I believe in the IAB's statement on internet confidentiality. I'm also struck by the need to educate the community about the benefits of the internet, but also about making sure that they take an active role in their own protection on the net, just as they would in any other part of life.
Thank you, Sydney, and thank you, George. Tokyo. Mariko. Mariko is a youth participant. She's so you have.
Okay, thank you for introducing me. I attended this meeting as a young users, and I think we should encourage more young people to join this discussion. Like I think most young people think that it's okay. It's okay to use the just use the service. We don't care such a privacy or also the security. So I think that it is important to supply the opportunity to think about this cybersecurity and also privacy to the young people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariko. And now to the Manila node for the closing remarks.
We'd like to emphasize that access, affordability, and quality are still very much a challenge in the Philippines. However, we, the Internet Society Local Chapter, are working to help our legislators, our decision makers, including the civil society and private sector, to improve the internet service. Content in the Philippines is very much open, and we will fight it back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manila. Now to Singapore.
Thank you. So I think it's abundantly clear that the internet is really like a highway, and like a highway, there's a lot of work to be done going forward. Like a highway, there will need to be a set of regulations. There will need to be a code by which all stakeholders operate by, and that's again something that we all need to work at in order to build trust for the internet.
Thank you very much, Singapore. Bangkok. Bangkok, you are still muted.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi. So from Thailand, I think a few key points that need to be made. First of all, when we talk about trust in respect to developing world, there is a need for government to not focus so much on enforcement, but rather on also and law, but rather to look at the governance model that is based on ethical practices as well, be it the government side or even service providers. I think that's something that is quite missing in Thailand in particular, where everything needs to be codified and legislated before it actually, before you can actually ask a private sector provider to do something. The other piece that is also important is governments and consumers in general to understand the technology itself. The internet is great, but the technology that you use to apply all these wonderful services creates different complex ecosystem, or what we call back-end processes, which are also insecure. So although we say, yes, you need to protect the critical infrastructure, but also you need to make sure that those critical infrastructures are looking at the back end of the process, which may or may not be digital. So I think those two are the main concern with regards for Thailand.
Thank you very much, Kim and Bangkok. Let's now move on to Dhaka.
Thank you. We want to emphasize on 2 points to build local contents and to enhance security and to enhance our awareness level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dhaka. Kolkata?
Yes. Regarding the trust, and we are discussing in this regard, user cannot do much. We need to do from the society part and the government part. As fast as we can do, the user will have a click on the internet activity. Regarding the government is also trying to put their effort for online transactions. Let's see what the next coming future on this. Thanks.
Thank you, Kolkata. Colombo?
I'm muted, yes. So good afternoon actually here in Colombo. So we had a very interesting session on trust, and I think most of us listened to the people from other countries. So I think it was an interesting session, and we're looking forward to the closer session. Thank you.
Thank you, Colombo. And finally, Islamabad. Very briefly, your closing remarks, please.
We need to actually bring our efforts into the development of infrastructure, bringing awareness about what the best practices is, and efforts in development of standardization, regulation, and support of e-commerce. And for the international community, we need collaboration on exchange of information and access of technology, especially from the developed countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Islamabad. Before we end the session, I would like to convey the apologies of Rajneesh Singh. Some of you might be wondering why you're seeing me as host of the session. Rajneesh Singh, our regional director for Asia Pacific, suddenly fell ill today, and I've had to take over his role. So with that, let's end the interregional discussion. Thank you everyone for actively participating. This has been a very rich session. Thank you for the organizers for your tireless efforts in making InterCommunity happen and making the interregional discussion happen. Please do not leave yet. We are going to have it's a 17-minute break. There's going to be a global session coming up with even more discussions and more interactions from our interactive nodes. Thank you very much.
Hello. Is it live? Yes, I am alive. Thank you. So thank you all. Our actor session is there is a global session. But global session is our simple view is our বাট অনেক আগে দিছে ফার্স্ট টাইম ধরেন একটা ইনফ্লুয়েন্সার একটা ধরনের ইন্টারনেট পেজ একটা সেমিনার কনভারসেশন on the experience group. But important thing is that how different nations, different countries thinking and how they're realizing how they spread internet as an important thing. Because I'm not guessing it's internet right take them back to say the internet doesn't necessarily mean only technical people in the classroom. It when it needs to be endorsed by some social worker, by psychologists as well, it is not really now there is some of them. Otherwise, you can bring other people. Oh, I'm not taking that. I'm a normal person. I buy those. Hey, I buy those. But I mean, I always want to say this. Before doing something, I always want to show them what should they discuss. Because in this sort of thing, especially we get the generation gap. Generation, our Baba generation, তারা কিন্তু একদমই চিন্তা করছে আমরা জেনারেশন আমার বাবা দিস কারেন্ট গভর্নমেন্ট আমি কানেক্টেড দ্যাটস পুরা না ওকে সো থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ এবং আজকে হয়তো আরো পার্টিসিপেন্ট হতে পারতো হয়তো হবে বাট কোর মেসেজ ইজ দ্যাট ইয়েস ইন্ডিভিজুয়াল জায়গা থেকে যদি আমরা চিন্তা করি আমার একটা মনে হয়েছে আমি শেয়ার করি হয়তো ফিউচারে আসবে সেটা হচ্ছে রিভার্স প্যারেন্টিং অ্যাজ সামথিং. If we cannot assist our parent, our father, mother, or grandfather, grandmother as well, okay, this is internet, this is the benefit. Take my what's in it? I mean, একটা স্টুডেন্ট why সে হচ্ছে একটা এডুকেশন করা যাবে গুগল একটা সবচেয়ে বড় ভাই ইউটিউব একটা আরেকটা ভাই দাঁড়িয়েছে যেমন কিছু আপনি ডেমোস্ট্রেশন জানেন একটা রিসার্চ করতে পারছেন ইভেন বায়োকেমিস্ট্রি বলছে এটা দাঁড় আপনার শরীরে কিভাবে যাচ্ছে এটা ডেমো দেয় একটা ইনফরমেশন একটা আমার ভালো লাগছে যে কন্টেন্ট ইন বাংলা আমাদের কন্টেন্ট সমস্যা আছে আবার আইজন্য বলছে এরকম যে হয়তো ডিজি চেঞ্জ হয়ে যাচ্ছে ফর এক্সাম্পল 1 2 3 4 আমার যা জায়গা দিলো ভুলে যাবে 1 2 3 4 আমার আপত্তি নাই কিন্তু আমাদের আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ডিং যাতে ভালো হয় দ্যাটস আমাদের কন্টেন্ট যদি বাংলা যদি ডেভেলপ করে দেয় সেরকম আসলে সামনে স্টোরি না আমার গার্লফ্রেন্ড আমি শেয়ার করছি কারণ আমাদের ছেলে আর পরিচয় আছে আমি হচ্ছে ইন্টারন্যাশনাল সোসাইটি আমাদের সেক্রেটারি ভাইস প্রেসিডেন্ট আমি দেব ওকে to see the happy faces আর আর্টিস্ট আমরা সবসময় যেটা করি যেটা হচ্ছে আমরা যাদেরকে নিয়ে আসি দিস ইজ আওয়ার ইন্সপিরেশন যেটা করি আমাদের অনেক স্টুডেন্ট আছে আপনি দেখতে পারেন কত স্টুডেন্ট একটু প্লিজ ইউ আর দ্য ফিউচার অফ দ্য নেশন প্লিজ সো আমি কেন বলছি এটা ইফ ইউ ক্যান ড্রিম ইউ উইল লিড দ্য নেশন আজীবন আপনি পায়ের তলা দিকে থাকবেন দিস ইজ মাই ট্রু ফিলিংস সো আপনি যদি একদম মনে করেন ইউ লিড সামওয়্যার এলস এমন হতে পারে ওকে ইউ বি পলিটিক্যাল ফিগার থিংক লাইক দ্যাট ইউ ডোন্ট নো আপনি সাইবার সিকিউরিটি লিড করবেন হতে পারে নো ইউ বি গ্রেট হ্যাকার আপনি সবাই চিনেন আই ডোন্ট নো কে কি করবেন আপনি ট্রাই টু লিড আমার হচ্ছে সো কেন হচ্ছে এই ওদের ফিউচার লিডার এখান থেকে একটা নিয়ে আসতে পারছি অনেকে ঢাকা ইউনিভার্সিটি স্টুডেন্ট অনেক আমার সাথে কথা বলেছে এখান থেকে একটা টেকনোলজি আমরা নিয়ে যান একটা হচ্ছে বিল্ডিং স্ট্রং ইন্টারনেট অ্যাপ কানেক্টিং পিপল এটা নাথিং একটা কানেকশন দিচ্ছি সিঙ্গেল বলে আপনারা যদি নর্মাল কানেকশন করেন ঠিক আছে রকম আর এই যে আজকে থেকে যেটা হচ্ছে মেইন ইস্যু হচ্ছে গ্লোবাল যেটা ইস্যু দ্যাট ইজ দ্য কানেক্টিং দ্য আনকানেক্টেড থিং ইয়েস আমার ভ্যালু আছে সুন্দর শুরু ভালো লাগে তার মা ইয়েস এখন হচ্ছে স্কাইপ ইউজ করে বা দিস কানেকশন আমার ভ্যালু থাকে আমার মা তার একটা ল্যাপটপ দিছে আমার ভাই বাট আমি চিন্তা করে কমপ্লিট কানেকশন বলি না কারণ তাকে আর কিছু দেওয়া হয় তাকে একটু বেশি একটা কারণ দিল মা কারণ আমাকে স্কাইপ বলতেছে বাবা বলে দেখে দিচ্ছ দাদা বলতেছে কালে বলতে আমার হচ্ছে ভাই হয়তো তাকে ফোন দিচ্ছে এনিওয়ে সে পার্টি কানেক্টেড আরো ভালো কিছু হতে পারে এবং তাকে এনকারেজ করা মা দিস দ্য থিং আরেকটা সবচেয়ে বড় কাজ মাঝে বলছি না দিস ফ্যামিলি গভর্নমেন্ট বা পলিসি মেকারকে এনকারেজ করা দ্যাট ইজ আওয়ার রোল দ্যাট ইজ ইম্পর্টেন্ট আমরা যদি ফাইনালি ওদের যদি মানে ইম্পোজ করতে না পারি তাহলে হবে না then the idea could subsequently access there but use করবে কি that's important এখান থেকে একটা কিছু সামারি যাবে আমি আমার পার্টি যেটা বলছিলাম যে
একটা হয়তো ক্যাম্পেইন আর লঞ্চ করবো যে এডুকেটিং ইওর মা, যেহেতু মা সবচেয়ে বেশি একটা কম্পিটিশন দিতে পারে, তুমি মাকে নিয়ে আসো অ্যান্ড তোমাকে যদি আমরা কিছু গুড স্যালারি সেটা আসবে। আমার কাছে মনে হয় সার্ভে থেকে ফার্স্ট দিন মনে হয় ইমিডিয়েটলি সেটা আসবে। আর হচ্ছে রিস্টোরিং ট্রাস্ট, একটা ব্যাপার আমার যেটা মনে হয়েছে, বিল্ডিং অ্যান্ড রিস্টোরিং ট্রাস্ট, এটা আসলেই ঘাটতি আছে। আমি সাধারণ মানুষের মনে হয়েছে, আমার কাছে মনে হয়েছে না আমরা আমি ইভেন আমি এখনো একটা ট্রানজেকশন করছি অনলাইন, আমাদের মনে হলো ও সব কোথায় গেল না, আমাদের বিশ্বাস করতে হবে। বিশ্বাস করার ব্যাপারটা যেটা আগে যেটা বলে গেছে পার্সোনাল দেখুন, উনি যেটা বলে গেছে যে আপনি আর্লি গ্রুপ থেকে যদি আমরা মানুষকে যদি শুধুমাত্র ফিমেল না, ফিমেল মেল যে কোনো আর্লি থেকে তাদের আমরা বেসিক দিই, আমাদের আগে এটা কনসেপ্ট করব, আদারওয়াইজ সেটা না। আর যেটা বলছে যে বাচ্চাদের ইন্টারনেট দেওয়া মানে সব কিছু দিয়ে দিলেন না, এর আগে একটা কোনো আলাদা আসছে যে কিসি টাইপের একটা ব্রাউজার, সেটা হচ্ছে কিস কন্টেন্ট বেস কিন্তু ইয়ে করে এই ধরনের কিছু একটা আসে। আমি জানি একটা ওপেন একটা ইয়ে করতে পারি, একটা আইডিয়া দিতে পারি, ইউ ক্যান ওয়ার্ক অন দ্যাট। ইফ আমি একটা ইউএস সাথে আলাদা হচ্ছে একটা কেউ যদি এই ধরনের একটা ব্রাউজার যদি কেউ ডেভেলপ করতে পারে এবং ইনকোয়ারি যদি অ্যাপ্লাই করে, হি অর শি উইল গেট দ্য ফান্ড। আমি এটা দিয়ে দিই আচ্ছা আমাদের দেশে ভাবে দিয়ে না, আমাদের দেশে আমাদের দেশে আমাদের দেশে যদি বলে যেটা আমার ছিল ইয়েস আপনি পুশ করেন ইফ ইউ আপনাকে ফান্ড দিবেন। থ্যাঙ্কস আপনার বাবা। আমি এই যে আমার কথা আছে, আমি আসলে আমি তার আগে আমি একটা প্রসেসিং করব, একটা মেডিকেল প্রিপারেশন দেবো, আমরা একটা গ্রুপ স্টোরি দিব, এটা এগুলো দিয়ে দিচ্ছি আমি। হ্যাঁ দিয়ে দিচ্ছি বলছি আমি ফার্স্ট রাখছিলাম আগে, আমি এই স্ট্রাকচার রাখি না আমি একটা করে সময় এটা শুধু সবার ডান্সের সময়টাকে আমি পরে দিব। আমি ফার্স্ট একটা করে ফয়সাল হাসান, ফয়সাল হাসান আলটিমেটলি ইউজার এক্স চ্যাপ্টার আছে এবং আলটিমেটলি আমাদের বাংলাদেশ চ্যাপ্টার যে লিডার রোল প্লে করে as he was playing as a moderator. This is love and respect. Yeah, I'm excited.
আমি ফার্স্ট রেসপেক্ট
যদি উনি নেই, যদি আপনি চলে গেছেন উনি এসেছিলেন, ওকে সাবির ভাই আপনি দুবার তিনবার চলে যেতে পারেন, দুবার বাট এই সময় আপনার কাছে পৌঁছে দিবেন যে আমি ডানে বামে পাশে যাব, ডানে মানে এই সময় ছিল যে জুলফিকার আহমেদ ঠিক ঠিক পাশে ঘুরে পাশে। হ্যাঁ এটা হচ্ছে ওরা শুনি চলে গেছে বাট এরকম করে দেখা যাচ্ছে না। এই সামনে ছবিটা দিয়ে দিন।
আপনার তো মেলা
এই সামনে আওয়াজ থাকে না, আমি সব দিয়ে দিন। Person Mithun, she was with us এবং ultimately Sabir bhai receive করছেন পরে on behalf of and that is the quality Eno bhai acha Sabir bhai ultimately introduction session ultimately moderation class করছেন Sabir bhai, so Sabir bhai is our respected guest. কাউসার কোথায়? আওয়াল আচ্ছা
সম্মান যখন জানাবো সবাইকে জানাবো।
ওকে গুড। এই আমাকে বাদ দিস। যে নাটক দিচ্ছিলাম বড় ধরনের এডিকেট আছে, ছোট ছোট এডিকেট আছে, এটা জানলাম না। আমাদের মধ্যে ইমরান ভাই আছেন, জেনারেল সেক্রেটারি আইএসপিএবি। সবই এক প্রেজেন্টেশন একটা সামনে জায়গায় সবে ultimately আমরা লোকালকে রিসেন্ট কাছে আসছিলাম, রিসেন্ট ইজ ডিসি সো আমি অন বিহাফ অফ রিসেন্ট কাছে আমরা পৌঁছে দেব but I mean, some very used to see that. No, these was supposed to be the chief guest of the session, but somehow he was busy. Now, finally, Chobaki get it. You all people. I mean, non-technical look at that. I love this person. I love his voice. And কিছু voices যেগুলো হচ্ছে okay, কিছু more ব্যাপারটা কিছু ভয়েস থাকে, কিছু মানুষ থাকে যে জিনিসগুলো হচ্ছে ইন্সপায়ার করে people. Hey, come on, কিছু মনে করুন। আমি এটা বন্ধ করে কিছু বলা কারণ হচ্ছে it doesn't necessarily mean you have to teach internet to learn মানে technology other things. একটা যেটা বলে essence, একটাকে বলে structure. Sometimes অনেক সময় আপনার বাবা মূর্খ হতে পারে, but সেটা essence দিতে পারে. You have to be good enough. You have to be honest enough. You have to go for it. This is a visionary. This is the essence. So there are some visionary leaders, there are some people who carry this sort of essence. I mean, ভাই আপনি wish করি, please spread this essence. মানে আরো ভালোভাবে ছড়ায় দেন। I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
আমি পরিচয় হচ্ছে অ্যাপ্লিকের সাথে, আমি তার সাথে ওয়ার্কশপের মাধ্যমে অনেক কিছু করি।
আরেকটা জাস্ট বলে এখানে সবির স্যার স্কুল আছো, তোমরা কিন্তু যারা সন্ধ্যা কি নাম জানো না।
আচ্ছা, you should be happy. I like it. চাই না কোন একদিন কিছু রবিলাল পুরো বসে প্রোগ্রাম করে
ভাই তালি তুলি দেন
ওকে সবাই আসে আমি বলবো যে প্লিজ এই দেখেন খেয়াল করেন ইউ সি দ্য and you will have to respect these feelings as well আমি সেটা বলবো আপনাকে
ছবি সমস্যা
মুম্বাই হচ্ছে ইউনাইটেড নেশনস এর ইন্টারনেট গভর্নেন্স ফোরাম আইজিএফ আছে সেটার খুব হাই লেভেলের একটা কমিটি আছে যাকে বলে মাল্টি স্টেকহোল্ডার স্টিয়ারিং গ্রুপ সো ম্যাক মেম্বার উনি এটা খুবই অল্প কিছু মানুষ সারা পৃথিবী থেকে সিলেক্টেড হয় ম্যাক মেম্বার হিসেবে তো তাদের মধ্যে আমরা প্রাউড যে বাংলাদেশের একমাত্র ম্যাক মেম্বার আছে
So thank you very much আমাদের গ্লোবাল সেশনে আমি সবাইকে আমি জানি বলি রাখতে পারি এই সেশন অনেকের মধ্যে প্রেজেন্ট বলছে যে নাও হিজ ভয়েস ইজ নট গুড সামথিং লাইক দ্যাট আমাদের একটা ছোট একটা আমরা আয়োজন করছি ওই যেখানে আমরা সেন্টেন্স সেই আমরা স্ক্রিন করাস সেখানে আমরা লাস্ট উইক যেমন ভেরি হ্যাপি বাংলাদেশি
সবাই একসাথে নাচে
আমাদের একটা ছবি এখানে কিছু খেলা যাবে মনে সমস্যা আমরা করে করতে পারি একটা ছবি আইডেন্টি ফ্যামিলি শুরু করে দিতে এই ব্যাপারে একটা গ্রুপ করে দিতে একটা সবাই এসে নাও বলতে
এখানেই হবে এই দুটো শোনাইলে এখানেই হবে
Hello.
সবাই সাজা শেয়ার করো এই যে আমরা সবাই গেলাম সাহায্য করবে রানা এটা সরে দুটো চারে সরে এখানে লোক তো
দিদি ওকে ফিক্স এটা ফিক্স আর ওয়াইড দেখনা এই আপনার
মাথার সামনে চলে আসে এই পাশে চলে আসে
ফটোগ্রাফি এটিকেট আছে আমরা বলতে বলছি না কি নাম হয় দেয়ার এটিকেট ফটোগ্রাফি কি হচ্ছে ফিমেল শুড বি ফ্রন্ট বিকজ দে আর বিউটিফুল
আপনার এই টেবিলটা সামনে চলে আসে টেবিলটা দেখাই যাবে প্লিজ কষ্ট দিন এই কোন সুবিধা হবে না এটা সামনে চলে আসে আপনার সামনে চলে আসুন। আসেন, আসেন,
আগে আসবেন।
আপনারা একটু আগে। ওকে, যেটা ঢেকে যাবে, টিকিটটা পুরোপুরি ঢেকে যাবে। হ্যাঁ? হবে।
Sure? Is this fine? Okay.
এখানে জায়গা কম তো ছড়ানো যাচ্ছে না, না তো খুব খেলে দিচ্ছে।
এবার ওকে?
এবার দেখি।
আর বলো শেয়ার করে আমি খেয়াল করে দিচ্ছি। আমি একটা গিলাস স্টুডেন্ট আছে।
আমার খিদে লাগছে বুঝে যাচ্ছে।
হ্যাঁ? ক্ষুধা লাগছে?
আমার ক্ষুধা লাগছে।
না, গুড নিউজ ইজ দ্যাট ফুড ইজ উইথ আস।
চিজ
চলে আসছে।
ভাই সবগুলো চেয়ার মানে চিজ চিজ ওকে 1 2 3
আমি একটা লাস্ট রিকোয়েস্ট করবো সবাইকে মনে করে দিব একটা আমি কোশ্চেনের মধ্যে আমাদের একটা জিনিস ছিল যে হোয়াট উই আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড রিগার্ডিং ডিজিটাল বাংলাদেশ একটা শব্দ দেওয়া ছিল বাংলাদেশ মনের মধ্যে বাংলাদেশকে নিয়ে কিভাবে আগানো যায় এটা যদি একটা ভালো আগান ভেরি নাইস থ্যাংক ইউ এক গ্লোবাল সেশনে অনেকে থাকলে বাট আমি সবাইকে নতুন লোক আছে থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ
আর সেশন আছে?
Thank you very much. Thank you, man. Thank you. Our time box.
আচ্ছা ক্যামেরাটা খুলে ফেলি
শেষ না? হ্যাঁ